if you look at all the big podcasts these days, like the newer ones, like a Gillian Wallow, Drink Champs. I'm trying to think who else.
Very guest oriented.
Yeah. Club Shay Shay, Matt Hoffa. We all know about them because they get these big guests, whether it's a Cat Williams or 21 Savage or a Kevin Durant, Young Thug, Kodak Black, Kanye. Like, you look at these podcasts and you like the personalities of the people doing the interviews, but it's the guests that really are the reason why those podcasts are popping the way they are. And we just have to be honest with ourselves.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I feel like there's different levels of podcasting or different things that you could have as your goal. And as much as I'm not a huge fan of him right now, and you haven't been a fan of him for 10 plus years, Joe Budden kind of holds the crown in hip hop for having a podcast that's just him and a bunch of other guys talking, and they do very, very well on a consistent basis, which is difficult to pull off. There's a lot of people in hip hop who have very, very popular shows, but when they don't have a big guest, the numbers are looking pretty weak.
Well, but even with Joe, like the last time he sort of went viral was Umar Johnson. Right. Or like the Nicki Minaj interview. So it's like, yeah, Joe has a fan base for just him and his crew, but when he goes over the top, it's almost always with a guest. It's very rarely with just his core group of people. You see what I'm saying? Like, if it really was, he would never have guests.
Right.
Same thing with Joe Rogan.
Right.
People love Joe Rogan, but it's his guests. It's the Elon Musk interview that puts him over the top.
I listened to a 3-hour, 4-hour Post Malone interview that Joe Rogan did when I was driving to Palm Springs.
Again, a huge guest.
Right. And I was thinking in my head, I'm like, Joe Rogan's interview style is almost the polar opposite of what you and I are doing, where I think that you and I are neurotic enough that if we have 2 hours with a person, we're going to really do our research and try to come up with the best 2 hours worth of questions that we're going to be able to ask. And obviously there will be shit that comes off the top of your head and there will be just, casual back and forth. But that Post Malone interview that I listened to Joe Rogan do, there was very few moments where you would even know that he was talking to a famous person or a successful person. Almost no questions having anything to do with the music, what it's like to be Post Malone, which is interesting. It's interesting to listen to two ridiculously rich, successful people have a conversation in which there's almost no moment where they acknowledge the gravity of their own fame. But for me, it's like, if I have 2 hours with the game, I want to really do my research and try to make it the best 2 hours possible, which is a little different mentality.
I mean, Joe Rogan has a huge deal with Spotify, and he probably, he's not, his income isn't based on the views like a YouTube person like me or you is. You know what I'm saying? He has an overall deal with Spotify. As long as he brings a big guest in and people tune into his podcast, he's good. He's not worried about clipping something out and, okay, this clip will get 1 million views by itself. He's not worried about that. So he's approaching it a little bit differently. As long as he gets a big guest, that's kind of good enough.
Right.
And he gets huge guests. I haven't gotten Post Malone. You know what I'm saying? I haven't gotten Elon Musk.
And I don't think that I don't think Spotify is in the business of telling Joe Rogan what to do at all. I feel like if he wanted to just interview his comedian homies for the next couple of months, that they probably aren't going to really have much to say about it.
We'll see.
But I will say, in both Axe Case and Joe Budden, that they both made it clear that Spotify was on their ass. You can't skip an episode. You want to take a week off for Christmas break? No, you need to pre-film another episode, etc. They're real serious about the output.
Yeah, I mean, is Academic still with Spotify? Because I heard he was leaving.
That ended a couple months ago.
Yeah, right. So,
but to be fair, they canned a huge percentage of the people that they invested in with the podcast. That was something that they were dumping money into for a period of time, and it seems like they got rid of almost everybody besides people who were doing really serious numbers. Yeah, no, we had not a deal on the table, but they had reached out to us to do a big deal. Right. And it was pushing along, and then about a year ago they were something, we're canceling all these deals. So they offered us some half-ass something, and we were like, nah, we're good. Or you just upload the audio and you make money off Megaphone or whatever?
Something like that, and they were going to promote it, but they weren't offering any guarantees in terms of promotion. It was like, all right, well, can you guarantee this much promotion? No.
Because there's just been this world that we've been living in for the past couple of years where, there's streaming contracts. There's, big companies like Barstool. At one point, Barstool was offering Joe Budden's podcast a huge deal, and then they do the Spotify thing, and it's like there's Rumble deals and Kick deals and everything, and it's like all that stuff is nice if you can get it, but it feels like at the end of the day, if you fast forward 5-10 years, once like everything is settled in, it's going to be all about who's built the best business, and a lot of these deals that are available in the short term are just going to disappear the same way that those exclusive deals for Apple Music or Spotify, those kind of went away. They existed for a couple of years for big artists, and then they just disappeared once everything had kind of settled in terms of what streaming services were going to be the biggest. And that's one thing I look at with yours, is that you've created a sustainable business that is very reasonable. It's been able to exist for all these years. And that really is what this is all about in the long run.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I feel like as long as you're creating cool, original content, there will be other platforms that pop up over time, like Snapchat or, Facebook popped up at a certain point, and now it's sort of there, but not really. But, YouTube is still solid. We'll see what happens with Twitter. I tried to, monetize a Twitter video this morning and couldn't get it to monetize. Really? Yeah, have you?
We make a couple $1,000 a month off Twitter, and we've talked about, uploading more content, and hopefully it'll, it seems like if there's something where you can make any money, you should kind of put some effort into it, just so that potentially in the future, if it gets better, then that will be, you've already established yourself there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. We're just focused on the video. We're focused on what we're good at, and we figured that out over 16 years, and we'll see how it goes. I'm 50 right now. I started at 36, 34, 34, and still got a lot of years left, and we'll see how the business works out.
Yeah, me and you both have that in common, that our businesses didn't really hit. I didn't even start No Jumper until I was like 32. 33, which to a lot of people, if they've made it to 31 and they're not successful yet, they're kind of looking at it like they f***ed up and it's not going to work out. And it's like, me and you are both pretty good examples of like, no, you got to keep going.
You got to stay at it. You got to stay at it. And the older you get, the better you get at kind of working things out. You have more wisdom behind you. You know what not to do. You know how to bail out of stuff quickly when things aren't going the way you're expecting them to go. And yeah, man, it's been a cool ride.